You're right about that.
Welcome everybody to the budget workshop. As mayor, it's my duty to enforce order. Officer Roberts and, was it Fessmeyer are the sergeant at arms and will assist in maintaining order for the safety and security of all. No one is to approach the table where the board members and city officials are seated without obtaining permission from me. If you attempt to do so, you will be stopped by the sergeant of arms and will be subject to being escorted out of the building by the sergeant of arms. It is my sincere hope that everyone participates in these proceedings tonight and conduct themselves in a polite manner with respect shown to all regardless of disagreement. With that, I guess we'll get it started.
I need my glasses so they're at home.
Who's up first?
Phillis,
I left my glasses at home.
I got mine going there, but I can see better. I can see better with them unless I'm looking far away off.
I do good except when it's real small print.
Thank you, Mayor. We can, you have the budget packet in front of you today. Tonight we'll be talking about the general fund. We're going through all the departments. We'll start with the revenue accounts and go through those, and then we'll switch over to the expenses of the departments. Again, we'll be discussing the general fund accounts tonight and all the various departments that are classified under the general fund.
I wish I had my glasses. I wish I had my
On the property taxes, we can start with on the revenue accounts, we can start with the property taxes. What we have done on property taxes is we have reduced the property tax by 2.5%. Property tax, as on the spreadsheet and the budget, is at 95 cents per assessed value. And that equates to approximately $7.3 million. Going down to our delinquent accounts, these are the accounts that we anticipate we're collecting on during the fiscal year 16-17. For the delinquent accounts that are past due by 1 year, we are estimating collecting about $25,000. Delinquent property tax for 2 years delinquent, $10,000. 3 years delinquent, about $3,000. 4 years delinquent, maybe $1,500. 5 years delinquent, about $600. 6 years delinquent, $500. 7 years delinquent, $100. 8 years delinquent, $100, and then all other years, approximately $100. For interest and penalties and court costs, we're estimating that we'll collect about $30,000 in revenues. Payments in lieu of utilities, we're pretty consistent, somewhere around the $160,000 revenue collection. For our payments in lieu of taxes TVA, that's pretty consistent in the $430,000 range. In local sales tax, we have bumped up the local sales tax. Last year we collected about $5.6 million. We are going to budget about $5.5 million. We have seen an increase in our local sales tax, so we have adjusted that upward somewhat. Wholesale alcoholic beverage and beer privilege tax, we're estimating about $3,500. For the wholesale beer tax, 17%, we're estimating about $410,000. Wholesale liquor tax, the 5% taxes, we're estimating about $140,000. Civil penalties and beer permits, we estimate about $1,000 next year. Business tax, we're estimating about $700,000. In the minimum business tax, about $1,500. In the cable TV franchise tax from Comcast, we're estimating about $250,000. In the AT&T franchise tax, about $12,000. TDS franchise tax, we're estimating about $60,000. And in the hotel motel tax, we're estimating about another $60,000. For the total tax collection, we're estimating approximately $15,177,802. Anybody have any questions in the tax portion of the revenue accounts?
Where does the Halls tax come in at?
The Halls tax we will be down in, let's see,
Bottom of the page, state income tax.
Okay, it'd be on.
under state revenues.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Our next section of revenues is our permits. For the permits and a couple other fees, beer and license application fees, we're estimating to collect about $2,000. Liquor license application fees, approximately $500. Liquor license privilege tax restaurants, we're estimating about $800. Building permits, we're estimating about $100,000. Plumbing permits, $10,000. Mechanical permits, $3,500. Plan review fees, $20,000. Inspection fees, $200, and other permits, $25,000. And that for collection revenue estimated collections for permits is approximately $162,000 for the fiscal year 16-17. Any questions on permits?
On the inspection fee of $200, what does that consist of?
Like, I mean, a reinspection fee, we have to assess it. If we're habitually going out to a site that one inspection, we do an inspection, we do a reinspection, but we have to do a reinspection of a reinspection, and a reinspection of a reinspection of a reinspection, you see where this is going, then we start hitting with a $50 fee to, you know, I mean, if it's that we can't go out there and get it done in one or two, or at least 3 inspections. Thing is, they're letting us do their punch lists, and with us having a reinspection fee like that, it eliminates it. Of course, you can see it's not a big deal.
Not much.
You know, but it does happen. I mean, it does come up.
Our next section is our state revenue collections for fiscal year 16-17. We occasionally get, we get the OJP VEST grant. We're estimating about $2,500 for that grant. We're estimating receiving about $2,000 for the DEA police overtime. We're estimating about $23,400 from the state fire training reimbursement grant, and estimating about $28,000 for the PD training reimbursement grant. For the state sales tax, we're estimating collecting about $2.3 million, $2,350,000 to be exact. And that's pretty consistent with what we've done in prior years. State income tax, which is the hall tax, we're estimating about $80,000. Last year we had a really good year for the hall tax. That is a tax we never know exactly what we're going to get. This is your personal income tax on investments and inheritance and different types of taxes there. State beer tax, we're estimating about $14,000. State alcoholic beverage tax, about $1,500. State gasoline inspection fees, $65,000. And our TDOT contract, which is our mowing and our litter pickup, we're estimating approximately $4,220. That's a pretty standard contract every year. So total collections that we're estimating for state revenues is $2,570,620. Any questions on the state revenue? We'll move on down to the recreation revenue section of our revenue for general fund. We're estimating collecting from fees and commissions about $4,000. For the league fees, this would be the sign-up fees that our citizens pay for participating in the various athletic groups. We are estimating about $60,000. Recreation fees, which is our building rentals, et cetera, we're estimating about $50,000. In our concessions, we're estimating about $45,000. For our field rentals, we're estimating $5,000. For the Civic Center rental, we're estimating $7,000, and for the multipurpose building, we're estimating $10,000. For our total recreation revenues, we expect to collect about $181,000 for the fiscal year 16-17. Any questions on the recreation section? We'll move on down to the library section for revenues that we anticipate to collect for 16-17. For the fines and penalties, $8,000. Donations and gifts, $1,000. Copies, approximately 10,600. Fax, approximately 8,000. Lost books, approximately 1,000. Lost cards, approximately 200. In the sale of used books, approximately 500. In revenue from children's programs, approximately $500. Total collections that we're estimating for the library is $29,800. Any questions on the library? Our next section is court fines. For our city court fines and costs, we're estimating about $200,000. Fines from the county, we're estimating about $38,000. Collections for the court fines for the state of Tennessee, we're estimating about $500. Impound fees, we're estimating about $1,000. DUI impound fees, $1,000. Sex offender registry fees, $1,500. Total court fines we estimate to collect for revenues in 16-17 is $242,000. Any questions on that one? Our next section is kind of our miscellaneous revenues. We're estimating we'll receive about $3,000 in interest for our general fund bank accounts. We do receive some rent for the Clearwire, which is the cell tower, which is on the fire station property, approximately $18,000. We're estimating that we'll sell some items this year, and in the general items will be $1,500. Fixed assets, about $4,000. Police supplies, $1,500, and $4,000 for police assets. We're also estimating about $20,000 receipt from the GHSO grant. That's our alcohol suppression grant. And the Old Timers Festival, we're estimating collecting about $15,000 from donations. In our pageant, we're estimating to collect about $1,200 for pageant activities. Fire department, we're estimating receiving a grant of about $12,000. In our just miscellaneous other financing sources, we're estimating about $3,000. And in our recycling revenue, we're estimating about $500. That's a total of $83,700 for other revenues. Total revenues that we anticipate collecting in the fiscal year 16-17 is $18,446,922. And we'll go over the expenses, but if you'll notice on the sheet, the expenses have been brought forward on the revenue sheet. Expenses that are documented so far are $17,434,959. That gives us a surplus of $1,011,963. In the expenses, we have not included any additional requests by departments or capital. So we will discuss that if time permits at the end of this session tonight. Next section that I want to go over with you is the expenses, and we'll be starting with the legislative board, and that will be on page 5 of the packet that you have, or you can look at the screen. For the legislative board, last year's budget was approximately $134,894. We're anticipating that expenses are going to be around $132,764. There's not a lot of changes in the legislative board. The salaries pretty much remain the same. We haven't increased any of the expenses. We did decrease health insurance. And I want to explain a little bit about the health insurance decrease. The way the health insurance works is we actually charge departments based on what type of insurance each employee has, and we cut a check and charge that department, and then we deposit that check into a 511 fund, which is our benefit fund. Our benefit fund has grown, the reserve balance has grown over the last few years, and we'd like to take this opportunity to reduce expenses back to the department, because we do have a fairly healthy reserve account now in the benefit fund. I think our reserves are a little over $1 million, and that's about 30% of our total annual health cost expense. And I believe that our rule of thumb is to maintain somewhere around a 20%. So it's pretty much close to a 20% reserve, and we're doing pretty good there. So we're going to take some of that savings back to the departments this year. We'll look at it at the end of the fiscal year 16 and 17, and you know, if we have some major expenses come through, we can always adjust that throughout the year. But I think we're doing pretty good right now. You have any questions over the legislative board department? Okay. Judicial board, this is our attorney and our judge. Again, pretty much, you know, the only decrease for this department would be health insurance. I decreased it by about $3,000, and you'll see that the expense is down over the previous year budget. City court. This budget is also down because of health insurance. It's down two different ways for health insurance in this department. We had an employee in this department that went from a family coverage to single coverage, and that's a savings to that department. And then we also had the reduction due to the reserves being up. So that's why this department the expenses are down a little bit more than what you've seen in the previous departments. And if you have any questions, please just stop me at any time. If you want, you know, if you want to go through each line item, so far we haven't gotten into any line items that have really increased very much. City administrator. This department does have an increase in it. By the request of the mayor, he has asked that we go ahead and include an assistant city administrator in this department. We have adjusted those wages and all the benefits that are associated with that. And we've also included a vehicle for that assistant city administrator, you know, when that person is hired. I do want to talk a little bit about the other wages, which is line item 129. This is the allocation where we charge other funds besides general fund for basically for the labor and benefits of the employees that are in this department. For example, this department consists of your city administrator and assistant city administrator. Those two people also do work for the water sewer fund, and they do other work for the stormwater fund. So we allocate, or we charge back to those funds some of the wages and benefits. I have not adjusted the allocation back to those departments yet, because it's kind of hard to do until you have final budget numbers, because if you make any changes, it's going to change this number. So what I'll do is, once we decide on you know, the manpower, and we have decided on any of the additions or anything to manpower, then I can adjust this. But at this point, I can't adjust it until we have all the manpower changes made and update the budget workbooks. So the major change in this department is adding the assistant city administrator, the benefits associated with the assistant administrator, and then of course the vehicle. Elections, we don't have anybody in that department, and we'll talk a little bit about doing a special census when we get to talking about the operating and other requests by departments. City recorder, we have moved from previous year. We do not have a salary person in that position anymore. We split that position into two positions, and it is now an hourly position. So that's why you do not see any salary dollars in there. We reduced the health insurance accordingly and reduced some of the wages, because whenever you replace someone that has been here a while, generally their wages are a little bit lower. So that budget for 16-17 went from 169 to 154. Tax department, we don't have a lot of changes here. Health insurance went down a little bit. It's pretty much everything else has stayed the same. I do want to mention though that all the salaried and hourly lines have been adjusted by one step, which is an average of 3%. So the 3% increase has been incorporated in this budget model here. In the finance department, of course we have the health insurance adjustment here. The only other thing that we changed in this department is we are required by law to do a let me find the line. What did I do with it? The only changes we made in here are, here we go. Bruce, help me out.
Arbitrage.
Arbitrage compliance. I didn't put myself a note in here on that. We are required by law, when we do not spend bond money within a certain length of time, we have to do what's called arbitrage compliance, and we have to get a third party in, and they'll come in and they'll analyze what we have spent out of bond issues and how much interest we've earned off of those bond issues, and then they will compare that interest to what we're paying. And if we're earning more interest than what we're paying, then we have to pay the federal government a certain portion of that. And I can assure you we haven't earned any interest on that. So that's what that is, the arbitrage compliance. And that is about the only change on that. Human resources. Not a lot of change here. We reduced the health insurance. We have a field position now that was vacant for a while. I think we increased the food line just by $500, and we increased office supplies by $500. We increased the membership dues by $500. We did put back in $190,000 for legal matters. This could be lawsuits or that we try to put a little money back just in case we do have anything that cost us any additional attorney's fees and or settlements. Our next department is the engineering department. We have no real major changes here. Of course, we have our 3% increase. We have the reduction in health insurance. Other than that, we did increase the electricity a little bit. Looking at the previous years, we went ahead and bumped that up just a little bit to cover the electricity costs that they share with the stormwater building. We did take down the operating supplies by $500. And we took down the fuel. Fuel cost is another line item that we have reduced a little bit for those departments that do have vehicles. With the price of gas, we have, what's been in the budget in the past couple of years is the higher amount when we were paying over $3 a gallon. So we chose to reduce the fuel cost down a little bit for departments. IT department, total budget is pretty close to where we were last year. We did not re-budget for any computer equipment. I think that was the broadband. So we were able to take that out. We did take out some overtime in that department. We had some health cost savings. We did increase the Rutherford County Esri license There was an increase in that. And we did increase the repair and maintenance service, which is mainly Guardian. We do have a lot more cost associated with the Guardian Industries and the security of the city and buildings and any other projects that they do for us. We did lower the operating supplies. We did lower the Microsoft licensing. We do allocate some of that cost to other departments. So the budget is pretty close to prior year budget in total. When you add the increases and subtract out the decreases, we're pretty close to where we were last year. Planning, we did do something a little bit different this year on our nonprofits. Essentially, we have had a list in the previous years that were called nonprofits, but a lot of them weren't really nonprofits. So what we've done this year is we have taken and narrowed down the nonprofit sheet, which is the very last page, page 55 of your packet. We narrowed it down into 3 or 4 sections, and we have allocated the cost to some other departments. And in planning, what we did is we pulled out the GNRC and the RTA cost, or RTA, the allocation that we allot them, and that cost, that expense is $40,415. We increased the food line due to the planning commissions and meetings, and so the $40,000 increase pretty much makes up the total increase for that department over the prior year. Codes administration, if you'll notice, the budget for 16-17 is pretty much identical to 15-16. We did increase the wages by the 3%. We reduced overtime from 7,000 to 3,000. We did increase employee education and training about $1,000 for everyone to get their CEUs and other requirements in. We increased postage a little bit, about $300. We increased membership and registration fees by $400. Just minor increases to accommodate general operating expenses here. We reduced the fuel by $1,500, and we reduced condemnation by $5,000. So Codes has a total budget of $484,769. Our next department is City Hall. The biggest change here is our insurance, which is our property, liability, workers' comp, automobile insurance. We have seen an increase, although they're telling us we're going to get a little bit of a decrease. But when we took over the fire department, we knew there were going to be some increases, and therefore we needed to adjust that line item up a little bit. We did increase the repair and maintenance service line for the Civic Plus maintenance agreement every year. We did take out the $30,000 for the web design because we have completed that, or on the process of completing that. We did add in the health department for $4,000. They were generally in with our nonprofit list, and so we've allocated that to the City Hall department. Police department. Of course, we have the normal 3% increase, reduction in health insurance. The line item 128, since we get the reimbursement for the state for training, we have to put the expense somewhere because we do pay each officer, I think it's $600, Chief. So we had to put the expense somewhere. In previous years, we try to net it out, or it got included in their hourly, so we're trying to break it out to where it really should go and do it the proper way. Because according to our auditors, we're supposed to put expenses in expenses and revenues in revenues. They don't like for us to, even though they net each other out, They really like to see those correct in the financial statements. And you'll see occasionally, you'll see a line item 134, and it's called longevity. What happens here is if a department has employees that have topped out in the pay scale, which is, we have various grades, and then we have 9 steps within those grades. If an employee is at step 9 and there's not another step for them to go to, they actually get a lump sum that 1 year. And then the next year, we drop a step and add a step so they get back into the step system for 1 year. So it's every other year they'll get a lump sum because they've topped out in their grade.
Phyllis, I think that's actually for line 132,
132?
the bonus pay.
Yes, okay. I'm sorry, longevity is the $50 per every year that you've been here. That's the bonus is paid out around Thanksgiving. I'm sorry,
The bonus pay is 132 in longevity.
the
134.
yeah, the bonus pay is 132 and the longevity is 134. Going down through the police department budget, we've tweaked a few lines. For example, for the repair maintenance service, we increased that by $8,000 to cover APHIS maintenance and other maintenance needs. We decreased the fuel by approximately $50,000. If you'll notice that in prior year we spent $140. The year before that, $195. We're hoping to come in around the $150,000 range next year. We did increase the Metro contract by $20-something thousand there. There is an increase from them this year that we have to absorb. We did put, of course, we had the bulletproof vest. We got to put the expense somewhere, so we've got the expense for the bulletproof vest. And then the mayor had requested that we, at least if we didn't do anything else this year, we did put at least 2 police cars in. And we do have, you'll see some requests by the police department when we get to our capital and other operating increases. You'll see some information there about vehicles. So that brings the police budget up to $6,027,622, increase approximately right at $50,000 over prior year. And that's mainly due to adding in those $100,000 for the police cars. Fire department, we have the same situation here, 3% increase for wages. The state reimbursement that we get from the state, we actually have to turn around and pay that out to the firemen. That's in line 128. Again, we wanted to make sure that we have the expense in the expense and the revenues in the revenues, so we're doing something a little bit different this year as far as the way it looks on our schedules here. Other than that, we did increase overtime a little bit, like $15,000. I'm sorry, yeah, $14,000, and we increased his hourly wages, which would be his part-time firefighters, by $15,000.
The increase in overtime, that was mainly for the, was it dispatch?
No, this is fire department.
Oh, fire department, okay.
Yeah.
That's right.
All the other lines are pretty much the same. We did decrease the repair maintenance on the building by $1,500. We increased travel by $1,500. We increased operating supplies by $2,000. And we also decreased, the clothing and uniforms. This one's a little bit tricky because the fire department is applying for a grant that will help buy some clothing or uniforms, turnout gear. And the city cost for that grant is approximately $12,000. If we don't get that grant, we will still spend that money on uniforms and turnout gear. Ricky had requested, that he definitely needs the, the money in there for his. Let's see, maybe I'm on the wrong line. Okay, $35,000 plus the $12,000, which would be $47,000 for uniforms. 12 of it could be for a grant. If you'll notice that we did reduce his clothing uniform line, but that was with the anticipation of getting the grant. If we don't get the grant, he still wants to spend that $12,000 on clothing. And then, of course, we took the fuel down by approximately $13,000. You'll see that in the last 2 years, we're spending somewhere between $25,000 and $28,000. So hopefully, if the gas prices don't increase tremendously, we'll still be okay there. That leaves his budget almost identical to the prior year. Of course, we did take out the grant. We had a grant last year, which was $67,000. This year it's only $12,000. So, he had a little bit of increase, but we took out the $45,000 for that grant. So his increases were offset by that. Any questions on the fire department?
Just one, his overtime's going up 20% next year?
Ricky, you want to?
On the part-time or on the actual overtime?
Just the actual overtime.
The actual overtime, training covers the training costs of the classes and stuff, but it doesn't cover for the firefighters themselves when they come in. We have to pay them to come in to do the mandatory training. We're going to fall short on that. The increase in manpower, the extra men that we got, we have to pay them when they come in to do the training. So it's either pay them or they lose their credentials. If they lose their credentials, they can't be firefighters.
Right.
That's really increasing the overtime.
And that's the difference between last year and this year is the
Part-
fact that we've hired more people.
Yes, ma'am.
Part of that too is we didn't hire those people till
Probably
halfway into the year almost.
halfway, just a little
So
bit.
we had some natural overtime from regular firefighters, not just the part-timers.
And it should offset itself, but if you see there is a little bit of increase there, and we did that so that we could put some of these part-timers on and double them up. We had said one a day per day, 365 days out of the year, but there've been some days even since we've done that project that we've had to put 2, sometimes even 3 on there in the week. You're gonna see 3 months where you're gonna see the 3 of us on trucks, because we've got 4 babies being born in 3 months. So we're gonna put part-time employees on, myself and Chief Clark, Chief Culberson are gonna get on trucks, but.
That's gonna be interesting, I'm gonna tell you.
I mean, those are the things that happen.
Stay clear to learn that days.
You get training hours in, you get sickness in there, your Kelly days in there, and then on top of that, you get pregnancies involved in there too. We can't stop any of that. So when those things happen, if you're running bare minimum staffing, as I said before, 6 trucks, 3 men on a truck, 12 on a shift. When there's one missing, it's either park a truck or put a man on.
No, I
So
got
that's
it.
where that came from.
Okay, thank you.
So is Clark saying Culberson is old and it's gonna be interesting to
They're
watch
gonna
him?
help me get in the truck, so.
Us 3 gonna work on 1 truck.
Not,
We
not
won't tell
station
them part of
two,
the
I
city.
hope.
We're going right into 1.
So we can figure on a couple mailboxes and a couple sliding doors.
Mailboxes.
Couple more.
Don't bring up mailboxes, Mayor, because my truck just did $10,000 worth of damage to a mailbox.
Oh, no.
Heard about that.
We'll warn you before it happens. We'll send out another bulletin, over North radio, that we're on the truck.
Any other questions for the fire department? Our next department is our emergency services. We kept the $3,000 in for training, employee education and training. We have $5,000 in for the Thermal Scientific Annual Renewal. We did move the Box 100 and Rutherford County EMS contributions to emergency services. And we have $10,000 in the budget for the hazmat expenses.
EMA, not EMS, it's emergency management that we contribute to the county's emergency management.
Yes, forget who the guy's name is. Who was the,
That's
who was,
TCAT.
what's his name?
Okay.
Tim Luther and TK Cass.
I think TK Cass is the only one that we get charged for. It's EMA, not EMS? Okay, all right.
We don't pay anything for that. Be too old.
Okay, we have, like I said, we have $10,000 that we, for hazmat, our hazmat trailer and its expenses, or any other hazmat related. And this is also the department where we have our rescue squad, and we have $25,000 in the budget for the rescue squad. The moving the Box 100 and the Rutherford County expenses to this department is what the major increases is from prior year. Highways and streets, we, of course, we added the 3% increase for wages. We have a decrease in the health insurance. We decreased electricity by $300. We decreased repair and maintenance service by $5,000. We increased repair and maintenance roads by $5,000, and that's for some general guardrail repair and maybe some striping occasionally. We increased the streets fleet by $400, and we increased operating supplies by $25,000. To $25,000 from $20,000. We looked at the prior year's history and where we've been running, and the last couple of years there's been some increases, so we increased that line item by $5,000. Food, Garland had requested there would be a little bit of food line item put in his department for those bad weather days when he's got guys out there working for hours and hours. He would like to be able to get them pizza or anything to make it a little bit better for them to be working on those kind of days. And we did decrease the fuel, and therefore that puts his budget down to $540,000 over the prior year of $556,000. Fleet maintenance, we have the general 3% increase for wages, decrease the health insurance, and all the other line items. We did increase the line item 331, which is gas, oil, and diesel. This also includes oil for the vehicles, and they're doing more oil changes, so he wanted to increase that line item by $1,500. Overall, his budget is pretty much the same. Prior year was $227 and $129. 16-17, he's requested $226,996. Culture, this is generally where we put all the nonprofits. And now you'll see that there's only $31,000. If you'll turn to the very last page of your packet, and I'll bring up the nonprofits online, and we can talk about those a little bit. Oh, wrong one. Let's see, nonprofits. Okay, nonprofits. Let's go over what we have, what has been sent in this year for nonprofit requests. And I do have copies of all the nonprofit requests if anybody wants to review those before they leave, or if they want to stop by my office anytime. We do have a packet of a nonprofit request. The Rutherford County EMA, they pretty much tell us each year what the expenses are going to be. For the expenses for this year is $9,400. Box 100 had requested $25,000. As of right now, we've only put $15,000 in the budget for them. The Chamber of Commerce, their request was the same as previous year, and that is what we have included in the budget. RTA, their amount that they have requested is $33,259. That should not be $29,916. Sorry about that. We did have an update on that. GNRC, we had put them in their budget in there for their budget request in there for $7,156. We got an update on that today. It's actually $7,190 something dollars. I will update that before the final budget packet is approved or when we discuss it again. I had already printed everything off, and it was kind of irrelevant to make copies for that small amount. Rutherford County Health Department, they have requested $4,000. That's their typical request. Rutherford County Paws sent in a request for $30,000. We haven't submitted anything to them in the last couple of years. Meals on Wheels, they have increased their request. They increased their Meals on Wheels portion. The MCHRA had increased, they have several services they provide. They do the Meals on Wheels. We do pay them some dues. They have transportation. They have Homemaker, and now they have a new one that's called Youth Can. And the information is in the packet here for that. They increased their Meals on Wheels by $2,500. They increased transportation by $1,000. They increased Homemaker by $250, and they added the Youth Can. What we put in the budget so far is basically what was budgeted in the prior year. We have not increased any line items for them. Smyrna Laverne Assistance Coalition, their request is the same as previous year, $3,500. Food Bank's request is $3,500. CASA of Rutherford County has requested $3,000. We have been donating in $1,500, and that's what we have put in the budget. Child Advocacy has requested $10,000, and as of right now, we have $8,000 in the budget, in the general fund budget. I think we may have a little bit in the police. Chief, do we have some in the one of your other drug fund? I think we have a little bit more in the drug fund for them. So when we get to the drug fund, we'll talk about that. Laverne Boxing had requested $6,000. We have generally been donating to them $5,000. And $5,000 is what is currently in the budget. Crime Stoppers had requested $2,500. This is the first time we've had a request for them in several years. We did used to in the prior years we had donated to them. I have not built anything in for the Crime Stoppers. So total request amount is $190,400, and what we have built into the budget so far is $139,150. Just wanted to go over those with you, and you can certainly discuss those when we get further on into the budget process. If there's any changes needed there, if you have any discussion on that, we can certainly do that. Sure.
You want to talk?
There was a request back there in those nonprofits that we feel that we need to ask on our behalf, not on their behalf, but on our behalf. You've got 2 units in this city that provide nonprofit services to us, one being the Rescue Squad and one being Box 100. They've asked you for $25,000. Everything that they do for us here is for us, police department, public works, for the fire department. We're asking y'all, not for them. They haven't asked us to speak here tonight. This is on our behalf. Everything that they do comes back to us. It comes back to the community. So if there's anything that we can do, or anything that we can manipulate or do, if there's anything that we can do to get them the money that they need to operate every year, they've given you everything. I ask to see these things from them because I like to know myself too. I pay taxes here just like everybody else. The chief here, I think he feels the same way that I do. They do everything that we ask of them to do. And I know sometimes that the politics gets involved in these things. But I can tell y'all from my heart here tonight that the politics that gets involved does not get involved with this organization when they're out in the field with us. Everything we ask them to do, they do. It's never any political talk between them and any of our agencies when we're out. They're there night and day. They just spent 3 straight days out in the sun and the heat with us during training, 8 hours a day each day, to make sure that we had the rehab that's actually required. We don't have any choice but to have these rehab units in place. So we either have to do it ourselves at a cost, or we have to have an agency from the outside to do it for us, which is giving us free manpower. The rescue squad is the same way. We ask them to do something for us, and they help us do it. In turn, if they ask us for something, we try to do it for them. We give them air when they need to do dive projects and stuff. They ask us to bring the air truck over, and we give them air. So I would just ask that these two organizations, that y'all make sure that you understand that they're not just standalone organizations, and they're not just out there asking. We can tell you from our side that they're doing. They are doing. And I understand there's some politics involved there. I really do, as other things. Mr. Jones, the other night, you made a comment about we're going to make positive comments about the things that happened in our meeting the other night. People wanted to turn around and make false accusations, in my opinion, that bad things were said or done in that meeting the other night, or wrong things for people. I'm not here for that. I don't think any of y'all are here for that. Might have thought that in the very beginning, but I've worked with you now. I know that's not the situation. But I'm asking you for myself as the fire chief of Laverne, and I think Chief is the same way. We utilize these people weekly, not just monthly. We utilize them weekly, if not daily sometimes. But I would ask you if there's any way possible that we can give them. That 15 is almost what it costs them in insurance and maintenance and things like that. They've got old equipment too, and we all know what that's like. That's where we came from in private fire, old stuff that's breaking down every single day. But what they're giving us back is for us. It's now not even just us. It's for the public as well. They give coffee. I watched them during a hostage situation a few weeks back, where they kept a lady in out of the cold through that whole process. They fed her, they gave her coffee, and even offered. They did stay with her until the entire thing was over with.
They did.
They do the same thing for us until the Red Cross can get here. Not down on the Red Cross, but if you call the Red Cross, it could be an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. These people from Box stay with them the whole time until somebody gets there to help them. So, and I'll let Chief speak a little on what they do for them.
From an operational standpoint, I don't know what we'd do sometimes if we didn't have them. When we get on an extended SWAT operation, where we've got folks laying in the woods and it's 20 degrees or 30 degrees, where it's raining, I don't know what Conrad would do with his folks, to be honest with you, because of their heat, cold, different circumstances, providing fluids for one thing. They provided more than once something to eat for the folks that are out there. Many times at night when we have a situation like we did recently over near Bill Stewart, where we were there for an extended period of time. What was it, about 5 hours total, 5.5 hours? They were there with snacks and fluids to replenish. It was cold. They did take care of that woman and took her in and gave her a shelter at that time. If not, we'd had to sit her in one of our cars for the whole time. It's kind of like Red Cross. I'll speak to part of that. How many times have I sent Cherie, because when we call Red Cross, we don't get an answer back, and it may be days before we get anything there. But Cherie comes and is there and helps with those victims who have lost everything in a fire, and help them find shelter, help them get food. And many times folks have been there to help provide food. When we had the church fire, that was an extended period of time for more than a day. What was it, about 2.5, 3? And we had folks there around the clock. There are, when we do a parade, there's no way we can cover every location where we need to try to shut traffic down. And we have, what, Conrad, about 10 or 11 spots where we use folks for that, because we just don't have the personnel to do it. It takes everybody we've got. It's all hands on deck, including staff that are there at the office to help do all that. I could care less about the politics. Absolutely care less.
And y'all know that's where we are. Neither one of us.
It's a
Politics
benefit to us.
The politics is out the window with us when it comes to this. This has to do with necessity for our departments and our community as well. And we have to, Chris can speak a little, he's doing our emergency operations plan, and both of those organizations, both of them they have their places in this emergency operations plan, and we really can't do without it.
One of the things that we have is very beneficial is oral rehab, meaning that we get them fluids as quickly as possible to reduce workman comp issues. Our first step is they drink a lot of water, so we have a certain amount of time that we have to keep these guys cool or even warm. It becomes a medical issue. So we look at workman's comp claims, things like that. So if we can prevent that, this is very little money, when you compare it to one workman's comp claim. 98% of their call volume deals with your benefit with your employees. 98% of their call volume. And the reason I know that is because I looked it up. They're constantly out here force multiplying the police department, the fire departments, things like that. Our volunteer services over the years, and you can talk to county fire on volunteerism, is down. And the reason it's down is because that there are so many requirements that is put on by the state or federally mandated trainings and things like that. So our volunteerism is down. And what we have here, I feel like that we need to keep. We have something that, I'll be honest with you, I've never seen before. And that we have a group that takes care of city employees. It's just like the insurance policies that are sitting up here and written on the board. I guess what I'm asking is take care of them so they can take care of our employees, is basically what I'm saying. Because they do a fantastic job, and they make sure that we have what we need when we need it. I'm going to give you another example, and I'm going to be quiet. When we go out here to the parade, this is one example, during the 5K runs. When I oversee the medical aspect of it, the first thing I say is, do we have water? Oh, yeah, we got it. No problem. Here, let me load your Polaris up so that you can give these to the runners in case they go down, or to your employees in the event that they need them and they get overheated. So this is a benefit package, basically, how I see it. It's a benefit package. It's very detrimental, I feel like, to our employees that are in here. For the street department codes, all the departments here is for their employees. So that's all I have to say, and thank you for listening.
We appreciate you, Carl.
Well, and Conrad wants to speak to something, but before he does that, we have firefighters and turnouts out here that overheat. We require the wearing of this for safety purposes to reduce the risk of injury or death. This holds in the heat as much, if not more so, than turnouts do, because it's right up against them. And then when it's higher temperature out there, all you got to do is be out there 15 or 20 minutes with that on, and you're going to overheat quick, fast, and in a hurry. So it's imperative, if we're out there on an extended event for us, just from the same thing that firefighters have. It's very important we have that rehab, be able to go in somewhere and at least cool off, and then be able to get fluids in them. Conrad?
Yeah, just real quick. I know that's the political football, but the guys who benefit the most don't even know what BOMA stands for. These are the guys who are right up in the middle of the action, and a lot of times they're working shift, they come to a mission. The only food they're going to get on that shift is what Box 100 provides. Like we had this call out the other night. They took care of our victim who had a 270, shot in the house with her 3 times and a 38. They gave her food. One of the best things I've seen here recently was we hit a crack house on Fifth Drive, and the kids hadn't had any dinner, and it's like 10 o'clock at night. And I asked the kids if they'd ate, and they said no, because the parents were more worried about selling crack and selling pills Box 100 provided them a meal, and then we got them a good place to go. So I'm firmly behind them. They benefit the people who are least politically connected in the city, and I just ask you guys to support them. Thank you.
You need a break, Phillis, or you want to finish it on up?
I'm good.
All right, let's go.
Okay. Our next department, pardon? Internal joke. Parks and Rec. As far as wages, we have our normal 3% increase. The allocation that you see there, we credit $83,500 to the Parks and Rec department, and that is from the senior citizens fund, because we do supply the senior citizens fund with manpower, and the manpower gets charged to Parks and Rec because we do not have actual payroll in the senior citizens department. Health insurance is down a little bit. Postage is down by $100. We took the membership registration fees down by $500. We took other professional services down by $1,000. We took fuel down by $2,500. We increased machinery equipment rental by $2,000 because their equipment is, their copy machine is $358 a month, and that equates to $4,500. We didn't quite budget enough last year, so we're trying to correct that. 5K run, we have about $6,000 in expenses for that. The Veterans Memorial Service, we put in $500 just for a little bit of maintenance on that. We increased the concessions by $15,000, and that's based on what we had seen. Last year was our first year or second year of taking over the ball league, and the expenses for concessions runs in the mid-40s. So we did, of course, that's offset by revenues on the revenue sheet. Also, other league-related expenses, that would be your uniforms and umpires and background checks. We increased that to $60,000, and it's offset with revenue on the revenue side. Programs, we did take the programs down almost $10,000. That puts his budget at $1,086,974. It's down over previous year because we did not have to rebudget for a truck or in a van. So that is down. And AC is under the weather tonight, so he was not with us. And he does have some requests on when we get over to our other operating and capital expenses. Our next department is the library. For wages, we have our normal 3% increase. Health insurance decreased. We did decrease the newspaper and periodical line by $4,500. We increased the natural gas, which is the heat for their building, by $500 based on what we were looked at prior years. Expenses are down. We decreased food by $250 down to $500, and we also decreased janitorial supplies by $500, and we increased the machinery equipment rental by $2,000, and that is related to the new copy machine. And we also increased the revenue for that new copy machine because that is a pay machine, and we'll be collecting revenues off of that machine. Other than that, there were no other changes. That puts her budget at $677,296, which is a decrease of about $7,000 over prior year. Economic development. We didn't change the printing or stationery. That's mainly for supplies, business cards, and jump drives for the economic development meetings and conferences. Membership and tuition fees we left the same. We didn't increase or decrease any other line. We did leave the $20,000 in there for any type of economic consultants that we decide to go with. If I'm not sure if that's going to be adequate to cover if we change from the services we've had in the past, but if it's not enough, y'all let me know before the final budget presentation at the workshop, and we can correct that. And then we also have the Chamber of Commerce. We move those donations to the Chamber. We move those to this department, Economic Development. Public Relations. We did split a position last year into two, so we have included the wages for that position in this department. We have our normal increase, 3% increase, decrease in health insurance. We also decrease the PR, Public Relations line item, which is, a lot of miscellaneous public relations activities that we do or need an expense line for that. Small items of equipment, we did increase that by $5,000. That's to cover any new equipment or upgrade of equipment for our Channel 3. We did put $300 in for fuel in case the PR person needs a vehicle to travel around the city and I'm sorry, that was $300 for clothing for the new PR person. And then of course we have, no, wait a minute, I'm on the wrong line. It is $300 for fuel, sorry. And then we have our normal $3,000 that we allocate or we expense for Christmas activities to help with the seniors and children. On down to the last department, and that is our debt service. And basically what you see here is all of our principal and interest payments. We did pay off the police vehicles in fiscal year 15-16, so we did not have to re-budget for those, and that was a pretty substantial savings. It's about over $400,000. Other than that, you see it went from $2.1 million down to $1.7 million, and that the difference is the line item 647 and 648, because all those vehicles that we purchased about 4 years ago, I think. Those have now been paid for. I'm sorry, we have one more little section to talk about. It's operating transfers. Occasionally we have to help out other departments that may be short of funds or don't have any real revenue stream. One of these expenses is to transfer $100,000 to our capital projects parks. This is in regards to our Hurricane Creek Greenway. The Greenway, we have a grant for that, and we have a 20% match from the city. And we just recently got the bid in on that, and the bid was more than what we had budgeted for in the prior years. We're thinking the overruns on that project, or the increase in expense is going to be right at $100,000. We did not rebudget for the TDOT payment because we feel we have enough impact fees next year, road impact fees. We feel like we can take that out of the road impact monies. Drug fund, we always allocate some funds to the drug fund to help that department out with their various activities. And then, of course, we take money out of the general fund to give to the Senior Citizens Fund to help that fund out, because of those funds are run independently from the general fund. And so that gives us our total expenditures of $17,434,959. And Bruce, at 6:45, do you want to go on into the capital and?
It's up to the board. Would y'all like to take a little break, or?
We can take probably a 5-minute break.
Okay, and then we'll get into the
51.
This will be the fun part.
Bruce.
Well, Cheryl, that's the evaluation for me. There's no white powder on it.
Are we ready to start that, Mayor?
We ready?
Okay. The last area that we're going to cover tonight is the compilation of operating and capital expenses that I have sat with each department head and went over. These are increases or items that the departments feel strongly that they need. The sheet that you have in front of you, it's about 4 pages long, starting on page 51. We'll start at the top. We have some departments that have projected out for several years, and then we have the main thing that we're going to talk about tonight is the fiscal year 16 and 17. And don't let me forget that Garland wants to speak before we end this session tonight. Okay, if we start at the top of the sheet for the finance department, which is, of course, is my very own department. As far as a new financial system, I think we're in pretty good shape with our financial system. I did have a meeting with local government. Of course, they have a new product. We're currently on a software package called FlexGen, and they have a new product called NextGen. They haven't quite completed all the modules. There's a general ledger module, and there's a purchasing module, and there's a fixed asset, and there's tax department, and there's utilities. This fall, they're rolling out with their utilities model, and Allison and I will be reviewing that because the water billing department has expressed some interest in either replacing or upgrading their utility billing system. As far as the financial system, like I said, I don't see any need for upgrading or doing anything with that system for at least 5 more years. And I put a cost in there of about $100,000, but after talking to local, I don't think it'll cost us quite that much if we decide to do any upgrades or improvements at that time. The other request that I have is that I am in need of at least one part-time person. Water billing is also in need of someone part-time, so if we could share that person between the 2 departments, we feel like we can meet some of the needs of the growth of our departments. In my department alone, we've had increased workload in payroll and purchasing and of course the financial side, and we can't seem to get some of the things done. We can't get any special projects started. We are behind in scanning and laserfish. If we had someone for a couple of days a week, that would really help us out a lot. And then in water billing, when they have someone out sick, it is very devastating because there's only 4 people in the office, and when you have one person out, that leaves you with 3 people. It's kind of hard to do lunches and only have 2 people working in the office. We're getting a lot of complaints during that time. Nobody's answering the phone, and if there's 2 people in the office, they're doing the best they can to answer the phone calls and the windows and the drive-throughs and doing the mail and doing all the deposits. So if we could have someone for a couple of days a week in there to help out with at least the window, we really feel that's a big need. The fire department, they have requested starting next year for 6 firefighters, 1 admin person, and 1 public safety. City Hall, of course, in future years, if we look at the facilities improvements in buildings that Bruce had went over during the facility study, The bond issue payment would be approximately $1.3 million. There's no cost for that in 16-17 because even if we chose to go out for bond, we probably wouldn't have our first payment due till 17-18. There was a request for duct cleaning for all the city buildings. I don't think this hasn't been done that I know of since I've been here, and I've been here almost 9 years. We feel like that it's time to do some duct cleaning to cut down on the dust and the germs and help for a better environment.
And that's for every city building,
Yeah.
not
Now,
just
this
City
cost
Hall.
is just for the general fund
Right.
portion of it. I think the total cost is a little over $20,000, but the general fund portion of it is about $16,000. City Hall, the boardroom you're in right now, it's in dire need of renovation and upgrading. And we've put in a rough estimate of $25,000 to upgrade the boardroom. The next one request is, this is mainly by the mayor. He would like to see an assistant city administrator. And of course, that dollar figure you see there would include all of the benefits and expenses associated with that, plus any other adjustments that need to be made to that department for, including a city administrator. We did break out in the next line down for a vehicle for that person. Those two items have already been included in the budget, overall budget that we've already discussed. But I did want to put together this sheet just so you could see the major requests and major increases all in one picture. So this gives you a good view of all the, other than minor tweaking of line items, these are your major increases. And I'll tell you which ones when we get to the bottom that we have or have not included already. During retreat, we talked about doing a special census. We estimate the cost to be about $30,000. IT department has several requests. One, we need a new server for local government. That is the server that utilities, tax, court, finance department uses that server. Right now it is getting very overloaded, and it's really bogging down and slowing processes down whenever when finance is trying to run reports and utilities is trying to reports. It's really getting slow. Glenn mentioned in a retreat that we need to include a mobile device management of $5,000 for that piece. He has also requested 3 employees, a network system administrator, a server administrator, and a system specialist. Planning department has requested for 1 staff planner and a vehicle for that planner. The HR has requested $10,000 for online employee training and $10,000 for a wage rate study. And I think this is probably a good time right now to talk for Garland to come up and talk about his needs, since we're talking about the wage rate study. We did have a wage rate study done in 2012, Bruce?
It started in 12, it was put into effect in 13.
Okay. We had a wage rate study done then. It's been 3 years since then. Things change, and we have found some discrepancies in the way the rate study was done and some of the rates, and Garland would like to talk to you at this point and discuss.
If you remember during the retreat, I brought up, and didn't know if I was doing it in the right way, about trying to get some step grades for my guys, and I think my street laborers are some of the lowest paid ones here, and I think Kyle's got maybe a couple. I've got guys that's got a lot of experience, CDLs. I've got one that's certified in working on the red lights, control boxes, and they're still at $12.25 an hour, and they're good workers. And I've tried for 3 years, 4 years now, try to get them some kind of increase, a step grade or something up to get them up to where they need to be. like I say, I have 3 that has CDLs, you know. They come in and work every day. I've had some that's been here 4.5 years, as long as I have, that's out there every day. In the sun, we're out in all the elements. And, you know, I would just like to, and talking with Miss Phillis about it, she had noticed some discrepancies in there. I think back when Miss Vaughn was here, I was filling out, I wrote a new job description for us. She was talking with, I don't know, James, and, you know, before she left and I was talking to her, she said everything was going good. He had a couple things to go over, and then she left, and I think when I talked to Ms. Cheryl about it, she said nothing was changed. So I'd just like, you know, to ask all of you to consider that. Like I say, everything we do is in the streets, you know, whether it be in a bucket truck or on the brush truck or setting out cones for a parade, for the park, for the, you know, Old Timers Festival, they're out there. And then in the winter with all the snow and stuff. And, you know, I feel that, you know, somewhere they need to come up some, and if you could help, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Cheryl and Phyllis, this is kind of a financial / HR question, but do you find that their skills in the department are not compatible with their salary compared to the industry standard?
We sent it to the gentleman who did the rate study when Fred was here, and he reviewed the position twice, and it's coming back based on his recommendation and the comparison of the jobs, that there's no differentiation between some of the, well, there is differentiation based on some of the positions have certified ability, you know, folks can get certifications. But we talked to him, even this is as of now 3 weeks ago, because we've been talking to him right up until today, and there was no difference in looking at the jobs. So again, we're gonna do a full review for all of the jobs. That's our goal, is to have a study done for all the positions. But even up until last month, there was no difference in the recommendation coming from the gentleman that has reviewed all of the positions.
Is there any way we could bring it from a street labor then to a maintenance tech? You know?
I think
This
it all
is
boils
considered
down
maintenance.
to the job descriptions and what gets turned into the compensation analyst. I mean, we could certainly look at the job descriptions and see, you know, make sure it matches exactly what they're doing. You know, when it comes to CDLs and other extra licensing that they may have, we could look at something on top of the base pay, you know, either 50 cents or $1, whatever we end up doing, you know, that would be over and above their base rate. But you're really limited when you come to street department, because it is kind of your base labor type stuff. You know, you look at water and sewer, those guys get certified by the state, you know, for distribution system or collection system. So they've got that on top of their base pay. The Parks and Rec, obviously, they changed theirs last year, year before, to maintenance technicians. So they added a bunch of extra stuff into their job descriptions. But everything is based on the job description. So, you know, there may be some more things we could add in there into their job descriptions, but that's what the salaries and wages are based on.
That's something we look at. I think what September we're gonna do a overall look.
We're hoping to start another study. We'll probably go out for proposals in September, bring it back to this board hopefully by October and get that process started, have all of the job descriptions updated, and then we'll do another study and have that ready for next year's budget. Right now, I don't know if there's a whole lot we can do between now and July 1st.
I know I updated mine twice, and it's not went anywhere.
And I spoke to Bruce and I both spoke to the gentleman that did our rate study previously. And again, what we need to do, I wasn't here when they did the last study, but I know going forward, we need to include the department heads in those discussions.
Yes.
The last one was done with Fred by himself. So I don't think there was any connectivity, or no one had any input as far as discussion, job descriptions. I don't know where they got the job descriptions, because we don't have job descriptions. other than the announcements of weekly music. So the proposal is to make sure whoever, if it's the guy that's done them in the past or somebody new, they need to come in with focus groups where we talk to all the department heads about their needs, their specific positions, and then the person should talk to the directors individually. And so that way everybody's in the loop as to what's happening with the jobs. So that way, because I don't know what happened, it was very skewed, but we need to have well-defined order as far as doing the rate study. So that way everybody knows up front what's happening. And there are no hidden surprises about comparisons and things like that and all of that. So rest assured, we will make sure. And the key is we just need to make sure all of our departments have updated descriptions well before September. And we're working on that so that way we will be ready for the rate study.
And the thing too is that helps the employees to have a career path. You know, this is my goal, this is my next training. When I do this training, this will be my new title and pay rate.
As one of them said, this is a government job, well, I work hard. I mean, that's good. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Brew.
The next item that was requested for 1617 is in the library. During retreat, Donna talked about doing some carpet replacement in the story time room. Estimated cost of $10,000. Painting, estimated cost of $25,000. Those were the requests for the library. And in the streets department, we've had Garland had requested 2 snow plows for the dump trucks in fiscal year 16-17. And also in fleet, he had requested a tire changer that's about $3,900. In the police department, the chief went over his staffing needs during retreat, and he's tried to break that down into spreading that over the next 4 years. For 16-17, he would like to add 6 new officers and sergeants. Total cost for that, $444,549. The equipment associated with that is $70,131.
It's not 6 officers and 6 sergeants, it's 3 patrol officers. And if you'll remember, I talked during the presentation about having to have appropriate supervision there for each shift with patrol officers, and that's where the 3 sergeants come in. So it's 3 and 3.
Okay. That's fine. Of course, we've got the equipment associated with that, with those, and then we also have the vehicles associated with if we were to hire 6 people. The chief has also requested to replace some of the Chargers and Palas. He would like to replace about 5 of those. He would also like to replace 2 unmarked vehicles. And then he has requested to increase his overtime line. He runs over every year in overtime.
The overtime was increased, I believe it was FY 12-13 was the last time it was increased. Since that time, we've gotten raises, but the overtime hasn't increased. That line item hasn't, but on top of that then, we have a lot more things we're doing now. For example, AC could talk about it at the park with the BPA tournaments. We have folks there in the park during the tournaments, during that whole period of time. And several other things that occur where we have folks there. And as a result of the increase in the pay levels, we're paying more now for overtime, but then with the additional things on top of that, I just feel like we need to bump it. And I asked for 40,000. There's an increase, because that also includes officers working and dispatchers working holidays, because they don't get holidays off, so that goes in there as well.
You know what page the police.
It's on page 29. And you'll notice that in the previous years, he's ran in upwards of $300,000 in overtime, and we currently have a budget in there of $240,000. we anticipate this year's overtime to be around 382. That's been a little bit because of the dispatch situation this year.
That's because shortage of dispatchers, not being able to hire them. It's because of some of the additional things. We also have our alcohol saturation control grant comes out of that line item up front, and then on the back end, that 25,000
It's the revenue.
goes back in on the tail end, but as you go through the year, it doesn't show it that way. Any overtime, even the overtime for our one task force officer, we get up to, I think it's about 18,000 a year now we get from DEA. Any overtime that Matt has there, they reimburse us for that. So then that offsets out of the federal asset forfeiture dollars back to the general fund down near the end of the budget year. But up front, it looks like it's terrible, and it is. But if you go all the way back, I looked today, Phillis, back in '04 and '05, we had upwards of the same levels of overtime that we have now through those various years, and that was way back when the pay was much lower, and proportionately, the numbers were probably per thousand were probably a lot closer to the 2.0 or 2.1 than we are today. So we're averaging about the same amount that has been done for the last decade plus.
I think a lot of it back then is a lot more tickets was wrote back in there, and then the court, that's where you kill a lot of your overtime when you officers go to
No, it's not
Murfreesboro
tickets.
court.
Tickets don't hurt us. What's killing us right now is the way we're set up. There's very few things that can be heard by the judge here because of the charter we have. A Class C misdemeanor zip. There are many, many traffic citations that we have to take to General Sessions Court simply because the judge here can't hear those cases. We're not like Smyrna. We don't have a General Sessions judge sanctioned, but, and Bruce can speak to that better than I can, because of our charter and our form of government, we can't do that.
And the state's not approving any more General Sessions courts.
No.
It's
They're
just
not.
not going to happen. So we don't really have any other options. We either continue going to Murfreesboro, or we somehow join forces with Smyrna, but then you have to elect a whole new judge, and it would be a mess to try and do.
Yeah. Or change the type of government we have.
Even then, I don't know if we can get a General Sessions court.
Not General Sessions, but I think unless there's something that says you can't do it now, Dunlap had to go to an elected city judge.
Right.
And
That's what Smyrna does.
That's what Smyrna is.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, your officers will pull somebody off with a tail light out, and then the guy won't have no driver's license.
No, they're suspended over.
And they have to go to Murfreesboro, and then you gotta go to Murfreesboro, and then a lot of times you go to Murfreesboro at 2:30 or 2 o'clock. Well, he don't get back to after his shift's over with, then he's gotta go to court. He or she. More trips you make to Murfreesboro, the more overtime it's going.
That's true. And we don't have a choice. We can
A
only.
simple tail light out could be a trip to Murfreesboro, you never know.
That's true.
That's where we had back 7, 8 years ago. You know, the more tickets you write, more trips to Murfreesboro, because you could be out there on the street patrolling Murfreesboro Road, and you write somebody pull over somebody for a bad taillight. Well, he ain't got no driver's license.
But until last year, the judge here could hear a whole lot more cases. It was last year that we changed doing that. Now, we also have, it's kind of like our officers that do traffic court. The traffic school. 4-hour traffic school, certified with National Safety Council. It's 4 hours, and they do that. That's overtime for that. But on the other hand, where you may see changes in the fines that are coming in, we are bringing in, what is it we're charging for the traffic court now? $100 now.
We went up on
For the school, yes, for the school. So those are not showing as fines, right?
Bruce, what's the possibility of VTEL, like Metro does?
I don't know.
Is that something that we could look into, to just see if we could have a designated area to take the individual, and then we'll do detail with the judge at the Murfreesboro location?
We do that now. We have to take people to the magistrate. They're actually at the sheriff's department, but now some of the statutes have just changed because the legislature has changed a few things.
If you got your individual, the officer and the individual here go in front of a camera to talk to the,
And that's one of the things that we've asked about. We've not been able to get that done yet because we want to do it with our magistrates. Now, we write misdemeanor citations and release on a citation when we can. If we don't have to take them into custody, we do that. But if we stop them and there's a warrant for them for failure to appear on a driving on suspended, and this is her 15th time, or it's a failure to appear on a driving on revoked, or it's a multiple offense driving on revoked for DUI, then we can't issue them a misdemeanor citation. We have to transport them. And recently, we've had Metro, when we had some of the things that they would have, it might be shoplifting or whatever, if we run them and we get a hit on them, Metro says we'll take them to the county, we can't come get them right now. We can't hold them over here but 3 hours and 59 minutes in those holding cells we have. So that's been a huge problem for us recently because Metro and some of their stuff, they used to, we'd call them, they'd come, they wanted to meet us in Waldron's parking lot and exchange prisoners. No, I said no to that when I first came here. It's dangerous, it's not safe, and we're not putting the public in that light. We have a holding cell here, it's less than a quarter of a mile from Walgreens. You come here and get them. Well, they want us to drive 20 miles one way to 940 New Salem and 20 miles back, and then in the middle of all that, going through the whole process with the warrant commissioner, et cetera, we're spending 2 hours sometimes for the booking process, and then you got your drive time, plus you got 40 miles. Those are the things that are kicking our backside right now, because if you've got 4 or 5 patrol officers out there working a shift, and you've got 2 of them with an arrest, domestic or whatever here that we've got, it's killing us.
And it's always been an issue. It's been ongoing for a long time.
It has. And it's fixing to happen with Smyrna, because I talked to Chief Arnold about a week and a half ago, and he called me. And the Corrections Institute folks who come out and look at our holding facilities are saying that Smyrna's been violating the provisions of those requirements, and they haven't, but there's a big battle going on there, and they may get to a point where they may not be able to hold the folks and release them there for the general sessions court process. And they have a general sessions judge there and a magistrate there. So Kevin's kind of concerned about that. He said, if I have to start doing like you're all doing, I don't know what we'll do.
And it's just gonna get worse.
It will. It will.
Okay. The chief has requested an increase in training of $9,000 for the new officers. Then there'll be increased training cost.
Now that 9,000 is for the 3 new ones that were funded January the 1st, but we're not gonna be able to send them to the academy till after July the 1st. July the 10th is the 1st, but there were no funds budgeted to train them, equip them, et cetera. And all I asked for is that increase of 9,000 to send them to the academy, the ones we've already hired.
He's also has increase of $130,000 for the Motorola service contract. This is a new expense. This is the service contract to repair all of our mobile equipment. I guess Metro's no longer.
Metro is bumping us for connection to the system and the network, our fee to 86, is that right?
We're also out of warranty.
And we're out. They will not work on our back-end equipment, they will not work on our radios. We go down there, they charge us a fee, but all they do is box it up and ship it out, and we have to wait on it to come back, whether it's portable, mobile, whatever. But they will come within a 4-hour period of time. If the back-end equipment goes down, they have to have someone here within 4 hours. And it guarantees that 24/7, 365. They will also work on our radios here. Right now, we have to send radios to them, take cars down there and let them work, do the thing with the radio. They charge us for the programming, et cetera, on top of that 80-something thousand. So for that $65,000 contract that Juan Padilla was here that night, and we talked about it, discussed it, we can have a contract with Nashville Wireless, who is Motorola's dealer repair folks here in Middle Tennessee, Nashville, for $65,000. They'll take care of all of our equipment throughout the year, guarantee being here. They'll do all the maintenance. If Metro upgrades, they'll do all of our programming, and they charge us every time we walk through the door down there. In addition to that increased $23,500 this next year to have connectivity, they charge us every time above that. So. Yeah, in the long run, it'll be worth that additional.
We've not gotten preventive maintenance done since we went into that lease agreement to purchase our new equipment. Because every radio that Metro touches is $69.99 every time they touch a radio, no matter how they touch it for 1 minute or for 10. So.
And then the overwhelming majority of the time, they ship it out.
Make these things last longer as well.
But the majority of the time, then they ship it out, ship it to.
And they charge us for shipping it out.
Yeah.
If they touch it, it's $69.99, and then if it goes to the Metro, the Motorola Depot, that's generally a $500 bill to do a repair and get it back. So that would stop all of that. I mean, what I would call double billing.
But it's not just that, the Motorola radios, it's the Avis machine back there in the booking room, so when do digital training. The new one, to have the maintenance and the warranty covered on it. Our PCS mobile video systems, and combined everything we have with that, they're up to about 9,200, I think. I don't know if Phillis remembers not. We had it all broken out, but they're about $9,200 a piece now, and those have to be regularly maintained. So these are maintenance and service contracts for a lot of our different technology that we use today that we haven't had in the past.
And all departments do.
For comparison purposes, is there something in the budget that we can show what we have historically been spending on that line item?
It's in the police department, which is at same page 29, and it's line item 345, object code 345, which is the top of page 30. We've been spending about anywhere from around $54,000 a year. Of course, we added the 23.5, it's going to take it up to 86. And then, of course, you know, I don't think we can get out of not including the 130, but it's not in the police department budget yet.
That 130 is the radios plus AFIS plus PCS mobile for the video systems, laptops. For some of our other stuff we have up there that we utilize too, Accurant, Lexus, Nexus, and some of those things that we have to have for investigative purposes.
So that's the 86,000 plus 130,000?
Yes.
This 130
Well,
is new, it's a maintenance.
It's 23.5 additional, and then the other is 95, is that right?
The actual Metro cost is normally about $62.5 a year.
The 260 is where we were doing the repair and maintenance service. Yeah.
Any charges that we got from Metro that came on that monthly statement went into that line item 345.
Yeah. But I'm talking about the other I had shown it as 260, and I thought you were.
So line 260 does not include the fees from previous, like when we send it off and they charge us a service fee of $69.99 and then a $500, that
Not
line item
necessary.
does not,
It's
where is that line item?
It's
on our-
included in that 345, the top of the next page.
It's, okay.
Some of that is dependent on how and what happened to the equipment.
Yes.
Sometimes it's insurance claims, so then when we pay for the difference on that, on the premium or whatever, it comes out of the maintenance line item. So, and we've had that happen several times. We've had a couple of equipment that's been stolen. We did with insurance on that, paid deductible on those. So those things weren't reflected in those lines either. But now this maintenance contract, just so you are aware, this maintenance contract covers all of the radio equipment in the city.
Yeah.
Police, fire, box, rescue, codes, public works, that's all of those radios.
So if we go with that maintenance agreement, we won't have to take nothing to Metro?
No, sir, there'd be no reason to take it to Metro. The only thing we'd be getting through Metro is the service.
The service in and of
The
itself.
actual giving us air time on their system.
They'll come to us. We won't have to.
Metro will not even allow any longer for their technicians to come out of
Right.
Madison County. So if we have a console go down, they can't even let a technician come out to our.
So line item 345 will not change except for it'll be bumped up that 23.5
No, it'll be bumped up by the 130.
plus this
Cover
130.
everything.
The 20
And none of these line items are gonna decrease.
No, because there's been very little cost, because like Ricky said, most of the radios have been under maintenance, but when they come out of maintenance, we're had to pay the 69, what is it?
Right. It's just the minimum charge there, $69.99. And
We've had a few charges during the year, but it's, I don't know,
they've been
like, I don't know if
like
it's programming
template
or.
changes and things like that. Even those things though would fall under this 130. They're allowed to do Metro Nashville template changes for us through this contract.
Every radio has to have an ID as to who has that radio. Because we have that officer in trouble thing. It's on the mobile and it's on the portables. In order to assign one of these to a new officer, or a mobile radio to a new vehicle or an officer, they have to be changed down there by them now.
The 2-minute change is $70 plus the time it takes me or Brian to drive it to Metro
That's correct.
per radio.
And the mileage, the gas.
And the
It's,
overtime
So
and,
it starts.
Yes.
so then the